Hi, my name is Cole with LumaDent, and I do some amateur hobby painting on the side, and I'm here to answer some questions while I paint this miniature.
What was your first impression when using our ErgoLoupes?
Mainly, it was getting used to it, especially with the ergonomic ones. They do take some trial and error, for lack of a better word, but once you get used to it, it was incredible. Like the amount of clarity that I was getting while, working with such fine detail. It was like a real game changer, especially going from just straight with your eyes to having that magnification.
How important is magnification when you're working on fine details?
Very important, especially with the scale that I'm working at. You really need to be on top of your game with that fine detail. Like, I'm not very good by any stretch of the imagination, but for kind of getting into the hobby and stuff like that, it's really been helping me refine my skill set because I'm able to just kind of focus in on that detail and not necessarily be worried about, kind of freehanding it.
What surprised you most about painting with magnification?
Boost in clarity was a big thing. Like I wear prescription glasses normally, so when I'm looking through the loupes here, I'm able to see very clearly, very magnified. So like when you're working with higher detail and smaller pieces there, it makes it a lot easier to see what you're doing, and also to kind of like how I was mentioning earlier, like find where these certain components end and begin, especially after you do like a priming pass over everything, it all kind of blurs together. So you'll kind of get an opportunity to get a better range of where these certain elements are in relation to each other. Ooh, sorry about that. In relation to each other, and it makes getting that detail and getting that clarity of that detail significantly easier.
How long are your typical painting sessions without loupes versus with loupes?
So without loupes, mainly I'll be painting for more or less like half an hour to an hour at most. Now, you're kind of dealing with, bending your neck, and after a while you're gonna get that neck strain after a while. So you'll take like intermittent breaks here and there. But with these, I'm able to kind of just get in a zone, put a podcast on, and just roll with it I once caught myself, like I started like late one evening, and then by the time that I had checked the clock again, because I was just locked into finishing it up, it was like 2.5 hours later, and I didn't notice any of the typical bothersome or trouble points that I would have normally. So it was a huge game changer in terms of that length of time that I was able to just stay into the project and not lose track of what I was working on.
How important is ergonomics to you as a painter?
For me, very important. So I kind of hurt my neck a while ago, so needing to like stay in an upright position is super important for me in terms of comfort. Something that I noticed when I first started getting into the hobby was, as I'm looking down all the time, I immediately noticed that neck pain, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, ergonomics are super important for what we're doing. And having, the ability to just kind of sit here and just chill out for a bit and not have to think about that is really important to me.
What kind of physical discomfort were most common for you while painting?
Back of the neck to right behind, like, I don't know exactly where that is, but like right at the back of the head down to like upper back, like those 2 points, because you're articulating at 2 areas, like right there and up there, it's really just creates a really terrible pressure point, and it just hurts after a while. So being able to just kind of sit upright really alleviated that for me.
What part of painting feels the most satisfying when everything is sharp and in focus?
Mainly when you're doing large areas that have higher detailed sections. So like when you're painting like a big piece, kind of like how I'm doing right now, there's like all these little tiny pieces that have that detail that, sure, you can just do a quick pass over it with one color and then mess with it later. But what you can do, and it's a little too wet to do it right now, but what you'll be able to do is, now that you have that nice clear image looking at it head on, you can go through and get into all those little detailed areas without needing to, move where the piece is in relation to you and have it closer up and, maybe just doing like one eye or something like that. You're able to just kind of sit back and look at it as a whole in relation to the entire area, and then see where those details, where you can prioritize and get different colors and blending in.
If you had to describe painting with loupes in one sentence, what would it be?
Easy. So I did a good few when I was first getting into the hobby without, having my loupes or anything. And like at most I would get 1 to 2 of them done before I get, tired or wanting to take a break or something like that. But with these, like the Ergos, I'm able to just kind of go through and make what would be harder for me, like those higher detailed areas or these multiple models that, in one time, make that process a lot easier and more efficient. So instead of, okay, let me dedicate one day or one afternoon to doing this, instead I'm able to dedicate one day or afternoon to like 3 or 4 of them. And that's gonna just improve exponentially as I get used to them more and more and I get better at painting myself. I'm just gonna be able to just roll through multiple of these in a given day in one session and basically build an army in an afternoon, basically.